All right, all right. What's up, bro? Stand by, stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a lovely Friday afternoon here in South Carolina, heading off into the weekend. I hope your weekend is off to as good a start as the weekend for Ray Tanner. You know, I would like to end a week with my bosses calling me into the office and saying, "You're fired." No, not that you're fired, but we're going to give you $50,000 more this year for a job well done, and we'll back it up with another $50,000 in the foreseeable future per year in annual salary increase. That's what Ray Tanner got today as the Board of Trustees at USC granted him a 2-year extension on his contract, which now runs through 2019, and bumped his salary up by $50,000 per year, putting him at $725,000 per year.
Well, I would say this. I would enjoy that, and I know one doesn't have anything to do with the other, but please, when you give me the raise and you congratulate me and you put it out there in the media, ask the Board of Trustees to announce the tuition increase that Monday, not on the same day that you're announcing that I'm getting bumped in pay.
Is that what they did?
Oh, yeah.
They followed that up with that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, they can always say that the athletic director's pay and the coach's pay and all that, they come from contributions and television money, and all that does not come from government funds
Right.
to run the school. And
But
thus,
you wouldn't have to say that if you just separate the announcements.
well, they want to get it all done at one time.
Yeah, I guess so.
We have got a phenomenal show for you tonight as we take you into the weekend. George Rogers will be here at the bottom of the hour. He's got his annual golf tournament coming up in Orangeburg on Monday, and he's got a gathering of former Heisman Trophy winners and Marcus Lattimore and others planning to be at that event, and got a dinner and an auction set up on Sunday. He'll give us all the details on that coming up. And in the next hour, we'll jump back into the NBA draft preparation stage as Lee Klein will join us. You know, the draft is coming up next week, and you know who's a mover, apparently. If you read the NBA pundits and look at the mock drafts, it's one KJ McDaniels. He's making the move up in these mock drafts. So we'll get Lee's take on that. Monty Dutton will join us at the bottom of the next hour for our full Monty on NASCAR tonight. His unique view on everything NASCAR as they're racing out at Sonoma. We'll update the practice sessions this afternoon, tell you what's going on at the U.S. Women's Open. We have got action at the College World Series in Omaha as Texas is playing for its tournament life. Vanderbilt's trying to move on to the championship round, but it's now gone final.
4-0 Texas.
Yeah, Texas wins it 4-0. Vanderbilt also suffered a personnel blow. We'll tell you about that as well. And also the latest on the Braves and Gavin Floyd. Mike Morgan will join us. Back in a moment.
We hadn't had him on in years.
Novoa, of course, Minda, the last player called up by Reinaldo Rueda. He came in to replace the injured Segundo Castillo. Doño Valencia slips. Gets back up, finds Novoa.
East Carolina's playing Honolulu right now.
Enner Valencia, no relation to the Manchester United midfielder.
I said Honolulu, Honduras.
Noel
Best I could come up with off the top of my head.
We'll put it on the
Okay, busy show tonight. We'll get to some phone calls here in a moment. 800-956-7266. That's how you can reach us. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. Again, South Carolina's Board of Trustees today giving Ray Tanner a raise and a contract extension. This about on the, well, not on the eve, but a couple of weeks shy of his second anniversary as USC's AD. He gets now a salary of $725,000 per year, and his contract runs through June 30th of 2019. It was a good year for the Gamecocks overall athletically when you consider, what was it, 14 of their 19 teams, I think, made postseason play, and the football team, women's basketball team, reached new heights, and other teams had high levels of success. The equestrian team finished second in the nation, and men's golf made it to the championship phase of the NCAA tournament. So they had a lot of teams to do well. They've done well in the classroom, too. And for the most part, they've stayed out of trouble. It's been very quiet on that front for South Carolina. So Ray Tanner has much to feel thankful about and to feel good about. Meantime, at the Citadel, the Bulldogs, of course, looking for a new AD, and they've got a search committee now in place. They're going to hire a firm to help them find their new AD. Jeff Hartzell reporting this in the Charleston paper. They want to have an AD in place by August. Their compliance director, Rob Asunto, will be the interim AD. And the committee appointed by the school president will be chaired by T. Hooper, 69 graduate, former Bulldog basketball player, a member of the Board of Visitors. Also on that committee is former quarterback Stanley Myers. Among those being talked about as candidates, Bill DeAndre, the former associate AD at Clemson, Jeff Von Dahlen, who's the associate AD for business and operations at the Citadel, and Bulldogs baseball coach Fred Jordan. So we'll see what direction all that moves in. Pro touched on it at the College World Series. It's a Texas beating Vanderbilt 4-0. So Vanderbilt takes its first loss. Texas staves off elimination. And it will force another game between the two tomorrow. Coming up tonight, Ole Miss will try to do the same thing to Virginia. Ole Miss is in elimination mode, and Virginia needs one win to advance to the championship series. Speaking of Vanderbilt, they've lost a key member for the rest of the series. Third baseman Xavier Turner ruled ineligible, violation of NCAA rules. He was batting .284 with a couple of homers and 38 RBIs and was very good with the glove. And officials declined to comment on the violation. And so there you go. He is out for the rest of the World Series. Got to certainly hurt Vanderbilt's chances, especially having been so close to getting to that championship series. Now losing to Texas, they're going to have to deal with Texas again tomorrow. Let's see who Vanderbilt pitched today. They only used two pitchers. Well, their starter, Tyler Ferguson, only lasted 2/3 of an inning, gave up 2 earned runs, walked 2. Then Brian Miller came in and pitched the rest of the way for them, but they never could mount any offense against a pair of Texas pitchers, Nathan Thornhill, John Curtis. They allowed only 6 hits. So Texas stays alive for Augie Garrido.
In fairness, uncharacteristic of Vandy, they were really shoddy in the field early. Couple of errors you couldn't score is the fact that, one, when the outfielder came up on a ball that went over his head, and one of them was a diving attempt that he should have had. He had his glove under it, and it popped out. And then I think it was an errant throw to first or something. So if some of those wounds were self-inflicted.
At the U.S. Women's Open at Pinehurst, Michelle Wie, a second straight 68. She is in at 4 under par. Lexi Thompson has made a move up the leaderboard, and she is still on the course at -1. Minji Lee, a 71, she's even. Amy Yang, a 69, is even. And Stacy Lewis has struggled some today, +3 on her round, and she is even par. As for the little 11-year-old, Miss Lucy Lee, I'm afraid it's time to go on home. She shot, but you know what? I mean, I would give my right arm to shoot 78 on consecutive days at Pinehurst. I'd give my right arm on the first day, my left arm on the other day. So I'd be armless. She shot 78, doesn't make the cut. She's at +16. The cut is projected for +9. That sounds more like a U.S. Open with the cut at +9 and with the lead at, well, -4, but then -1 being the second place contender right now. As far as the PGA event up in Connecticut, top of the leaderboard right now is Brendan Steele. No, I take that back. Stuart Langley. Stuart Langley's 11 under, and he had a 65 today. Michael Putnam is a shot back, along with KJ Choi and Harris English. That's the top of the leaderboard. As far as familiar names, Dustin Johnson, a 66. He's 8 under, very much in the hunt. Tommy Gainey, a 66, 4 under. Bill McGirt, a 67. He's at -2. Jonathan Bird, a 68. He's at 2 under. John Daly had a 68. He's at 2 under. Bubba Watson slipped to a 72. He is in for the weekend, though, at -1. Scott Brown is even. Chris Blanks is even. And Kyle Stanley is 2 over par. Let's see where the cut's going to fall. The cut is going to fall at -1. So Stanley and Blanks and Brown will not make the cut this weekend. Looks like everybody's in. Looks like the cut, they're still saying projected cut. Projected cut is -1 at this point. Out at Sonoma, they have got practice ongoing for this weekend's Road Cup event, first Road Cup event of the season. And Kurt Busch, fastest speed at 95.470. Then it's Clint Boyer, 95.421. Brian Vickers, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson. Those are the others in the top 5 in practice today out at the Sonoma. Now I got to double check and see what qualifying is. Not sure if it comes up later this afternoon or tomorrow. I'll have to check that schedule again. And, the Braves, Pro. I know you want to comment on what happened last night. The Braves got a win and a loss.
Yeah, it seems like the Nationals just lay down for the Braves for whatever reason. They got a 2-0 lead early. And, another pitcher on the DL. What is this, 4 or 5 with Tommy John? Well, this is a cracked bone in the elbow.
Crack the funny bone. He's got a fractured funny bone in his elbow. It's the same elbow that had Tommy John surgery 17 months ago. And they were doing further examinations of him today back in Atlanta. So I'm sure that when Mike joins us, he'll have the latest on that. But I would imagine he's gone for the year, I would think.
Oh, goodness. Yeah,
I
would think so, especially with the torque he puts on his breaking pitches. You know, the interesting thing is I think what is it, Corn, a little lesser than golf, but they said in the field of sport, the one action that does nothing physically beneficial for the human body is the overhand throwing of a baseball.
Well, that's why softball pitchers can throw 50 innings.
Yeah, exactly.
In consecutive days. By the way, qualifying at Sonoma will come up tomorrow at 1:40 Eastern Time. All right, so you can make your plans for that, you NASCAR fans. All right, and what else do I want to mention here very quickly before we hit the break?
Oh, you didn't give the World Cup scores yet.
That's right. What else did I want to mention here before the break? Oh, Kyle Parker will be in the Rockies starting lineup tonight. So he makes his first start for the Rockies. He has played in the first 2 games, but he'll make his first start tonight.
I thought he made his first start and struck out twice in Clayton Kershaw's no-hitter.
That tweet I saw here this afternoon says he'll make his first start tonight. Okay. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what they're tweeting out there. All right, we'll hit a break. Oh, Tiger Woods. Tell you what's going on with him in just a moment.
I won't address the World Cup pro, but he'll address the steroid-ridden golfer. My Cubbies need more steroids.
Tiger Woods is coming back. Thank goodness. He announced today that he will play next week in his own tournament, which is the Quicken Loans National. Quicken Loans National at Congressional. That's the tournament he hosts. And he said, quote, "After a lot of therapy, I have recovered well and will be supporting my foundation next week at the Quicken Loans National. I've just started to hit full shots, but it's time to take the next step. I'll be a bit rusty, but I want to play myself back into competitive shape. Excited for the challenge ahead." So that is certainly good news.
Now
Good
he
to have
said he
Tiger
wants to
back.
support who?
His foundation.
His foundation.
Yeah.
And nobody's worried about his foundation. He's worried about his foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that back, what is this, only 3 months? I mean, back surgery, that's nothing to play with. I don't know if 3 months
Well,
is
it was that
enough.
microfracture surgery, which might be a little different than the major back surgery, but it's serious. I'm not, taking away from it. But apparently he's got it back in good enough shape to go out there and hack it around. We shall see. Hey, when you're out on the water this weekend, we, of course, encourage you to have a lot of fun, but, of course, we encourage you to never drink and drive your boat. Always designate a driver and always wear your life jacket. Let's all make it through the summer safely, so we can have you at the football games coming up this fall to root on your favorite team around South Carolina. All right, and new high school football coach announced at Woodmont High School. Ned Cuthbertson is the new coach at Woodmont. He replaces Jason Farmer, who left recently to take the same position at Landrum. Cuthbertson's a 2007 Burns graduate and played on 2 state championship teams there, and played at Elon, 2-time All-SoCon selection, and a team captain. He's been coaching most recently as, let's see here. Well, he was coaching at Chase High School in North Carolina. That's where he began his coaching career, so that apparently is where he is coming from. So Woodmont has filled its job. And let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, yes, DeMarcus Lawrence, who was a standout at Silver Bluff High School. Second-round draft pick of the Cowboys. They've agreed to terms, and he's going to get a 4-year deal, $5.5 million, 3.9 guaranteed, 2.3 signing bonus. The Cowboys traded up to get him with the 34th pick. I think he went to junior college out of high school. Then he ended up at Boise State, and he had 20 sacks in 2 seasons at Boise State. So he gets his deal. He gets his money from the Cowboys. They hope that he can come in and replace DeMarcus Ware, who was released in March. Has he signed with anybody?
Yeah, he's with Denver.
Signed with the Broncos?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Okay. That's going to make that defense even better. So there you go. DeMarcus Lawrence cashing in the big money in the NFL. All right. Going to hit a break. Coming up, George Rogers is scheduled to be with us, talk about his upcoming event Sunday and Monday, and we'll talk, of course, some Gamecock football and college football with the former Heisman Trophy winner and Gamecock star. Back in a moment.
So when do you suggest I call him? Your logic confuses me, but we'll do it.
we are back with you, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut, the professor. Tom Hayes and the state man, Graham Pope, once again behind the bulletproof glass. Big weekend in Columbia for former NFL stars and Heisman Trophy winners and the like. The George Rogers Foundation annual gala, silent auction, and golf tournament is this weekend at the Marriott in downtown Columbia. The gala and silent auction on Sunday, and the celebrity golf tournament Monday in Orangeburg, the beautiful Orangeburg Country Club. And George is going to be with us in just a moment. However, we have on the phone with us now one of his good friends. And you know, back in the day of the Heisman Trophy race, that particular year, it was 1-2. Was it going to be Hugh Green or was it going to be George Rogers? George won it. Hugh put up a great run. It was going to be the first defensive guy to win it. Came up just a little bit short. But he is joining us on the phone. Hugh, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing the same thing I did back then, helping George out.
You're trying to catch up with him, huh?
Yeah.
I think that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us until George can grab the phone. But first of all, just fill us in on what you're doing and what are you up to these days?
Well, what I'm doing is the basis of supporting my compadres, guys that in the beginning of life, you know, even from college, you meet guys and, you know, that's what's so unique about our fraternity is that you meet guys that you stay in their lives for, you know, a long time. What is this, 35 years, 36? That's a long time. Through trials and tribulations, our families, our ups and downs, our divorces, you know, you name it. We somehow get into each other's lives and stay in each other's lives. And lo and behold, you look 35 years later and bam, same thing. It's our love and our commitment with what we're doing and what he's trying to accomplish in the South Carolina area with his foundation, just as well as what he's doing as an overall whole. We're part of, and we're behind and supporting him as much as possible.
Well, that's great comments on your behalf. Going back to that year, 1980, when George won the Heisman and you were right there finishing second, what was that like for you? You knew at that time that folks had a hard time voting for defensive players, yet you were so great, you were so dominant that a lot of people thought you should get that award.
Well, it was a very unique year. And I tell people all the time, times have sort of changed a little bit. I felt that in my 4 years that it wasn't that I just put a brick in. I did a paved roadway that led up to that perspective. And so that was the basis of what I was very complimentary in a way that I was able to be in the position that I was in and be noticed or considered as well as I was. And me and George, we have over the decades of our life have argued back and forth with different things, and I'm very satisfied and content. I opened a lot of eyes, which was an accomplishment, and so you go on from there. He's very unique, have always been very unique, one of the most unique and very selective individuals that come along in a lifetime. I know for sure at the University of South Carolina. And from that basis, life and God in so many ways, you get what you're blessed with.
Talking with Hugh Green, good friend of George Rogers, in town for George's foundation.
And George came back, so what I'm gonna do is give it to him and let him control it from there. But thank you, and I'm glad to be the substitute to help George when he's not there.
Okay, just don't hit him. Don't knock him down.
Hey, Phil, what's going on, baby?
George, how are you, man? Hey, we're having a great conversation.
You feeling good?
Hugh's good, man. I tell you what. But you are the man. I was going to open this thing up by saying, You know, at South Carolina, before Clowney and before Lattimore and before Sharp, there was George. And you're the only
Hey.
one. You're the only one that we can call by the first name, and we know who we're talking about.
That's pretty good, man. But you know, like he was saying, man, there's been a lot of people that come along and certainly at South Carolina. But Hugh Green was a unique player himself, you know, and beating him out at the Heisman for the Heisman was not a thing that I planned or didn't know about, because Hugh Green was a real good defensive football player. He very easily could have been the first defensive player or one of the only one before I think what the defensive back name
Charles Woodson.
Woodson, yeah, Charles Woodson. He would have been before him, because Hugh was nothing to play with. That's for sure.
Boy, what a combination! You know, you saw Clowney up close, and you saw Hugh up close. Are they comparable?
Oh, ain't no question about it. I can tell you right now, Hugh Green. Hey, don't be fooled by his size. I can tell you right now, Hugh Green is every bit of man that he was.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't know, you need to get out there on the field and he showed you.
It was quite an athlete,
Now,
great athlete.
Hugh would tell you, though, he had some help on the other side, because Ricky Jackson was on the other side. He
ain't no
was
question
dangerous.
about that. You can say that, but predominantly Hugh Green was a problem with everybody. Ricky Jackson came along maybe toward the end, but Ricky Jackson, Hugh Green was Pittsburgh defense.
No question. Talking with George Rogers. Before we get into a little football stuff, I want to talk about this weekend and the guys coming in to support your foundation, the auction on Sunday, the Marriott, the golf in Orangeburg on Monday. What does this weekend mean for you personally?
Oh, well, you know, I can tell you right now, Lattimore is certainly one of the best running backs to come to Carolina, and just being able to help kids. I mean, Lattimore have struck out to do that, and that's what I've been trying to do for the last 23 years is to get those kids education. Now, I'm a first generation to go to school in my family, and I got one that went to Furman, and I got one that went to Carolina. So you got to get started somewhere, and I got my family started, and I want to make sure that I help many more kids be able to get a chance to go to college and go to school. That's what it's about.
So when somebody donates to the George Rogers Foundation, the money goes to where? To helping those first kids go to college?
First generation students go to school. People and people's family have never been to school, got a great chance of getting a scholarship through the George Rogers Foundation for the last 23 years.
Mm-hmm. How many kids do you have an idea of how many kids you've helped go to college?
Oh man, so you don't want me to go backwards and count them, because I know we help a lot of them, and we help. Well, I think we have about 15 last year, and this year we hope to do about 20.
That's fantastic. And you got Lattimore coming in for the event, right?
Ain't no question about it. And I'm going to his.
You're going to his Oh yeah, you're going to his event as well.
Oh, ain't no question about it, man. And tell those kids how important it is to get them grades, because that's where you got to start at.
Now, can folks who can they just show up at the Marriott on Sunday and go?
No, it's not at the Marriott. It's at the stadium.
At the stadium.
It's at the zone. Okay. It's at the zone.
Okay.
And we would love for people to come to the zone and then show up and get autographs and meet the guys and. That's going to be there. Larry Holmes going to be there. Certainly Hugh Green. Ricky Jackson going to be there. Mike Holt. Some of our greats are going to be there too. So there's a lot of athletes without saying a whole lot of names, but just to mention my other two boys, Gino Toretta and Mike Rozier. They're going to be there. So, you know, and it's going to be a fun time, you know, and you got to remember, we're 501c and we're trying to help kids go to school, and that's what it's all about.
All right, George, hang on, and don't go too far now. We're going to come back to you in just a second. I got to talk a little football and a little statue with you. Visiting with George Rogers, his foundation events this weekend at the stadium and in Orangeburg. Back in a moment.
foul called by Ben Williams. Jorge Guagua commits it. Soon to be coming out will be Luis Nishimura, the fourth official, to show us how much more we'll be playing here in Arena do Baixada. Two more minutes added, I've been told. 1-1 here. Long run up by Muma Bernardes. He's got a cannon of a right foot.
And we've seen him display that with the San Jose Earthquakes in Major League Soccer. Capable of hitting this on target.
Could it be Izaguirre with the left? Over the ball, Emilio Izaguirre. Here comes Muma. Brings some ice for Dominguez's hands.
And not much of a surprise here. He's just going to hit it, put his laces through the ball, strike it solidly. Dominguez reacts well. Corner kick for Honduras.
Boniek takes it. And another missed opportunity from a set piece into the box by Honduras.
Terry Benson comes off his defender, Christian Novoa. And although an uncomfortable opportunity, Benson doesn't even make contact.
Alex Dominguez from Liga de Quito. Ainor Figueroa. Here comes Novoa and a charging Benston. He's attempting more of a contact play. And to look for the ball. Brixon Eraso. What the right conditions for this pitch, Alejandro?
It doesn't look very clean down there. It seems very choppy. Seems like the field is coming up on the players. Very loose in some spots. And we saw the grounds crew trying to address that very issue prior to the teams coming onto the field.
Bengtson opens up. Bekeles. Four in the box for Honduras. Costly! Post! Goal! No. Disallowed. Handball, it said by the referee. The assistant referee was making a run into the middle of the field. We've seen.
Stand by.
All right, back for a couple more minutes with the great George Rogers. Got his foundation event this weekend. And again, it's at the stadium. The reason I was saying Marriott, George, I see where the Marriott is the headquarters hotel for everybody, but the auction and the gala will be at the Zone at Williams-Brice. Then your golf tournament's over in Orangeburg on Monday.
Man, yeah, Orangeburg Club, which is a great venue.
Oh, yeah.
We're lucky to even have them let us come out there and play at that place. That place is just such a nice place to play at, man. If you love golf, you want to play somewhere like the Orangeburg Country Club.
No question. Could you beat the little 11-year-old girl that's playing?
No.
You couldn't beat her?
No, I couldn't beat her. And you can't either.
No, I know. Makes me sick. She shot 78. I mean, I
can't shoot no 78 nowhere.
No, that's terrific. I want to ask you a couple things. The statue thing they're going to do to honor you at the stadium. What are your thoughts about that? And how would you like to see how would you like to be depicted?
Well, I think, with the picture that we had at the Booker T, on the Booker T Washington building was, such a memorable thing for me. And like I told everybody else, I wish they would do something for the whole team that I played with. Those guys, like I said, on offense, my offensive linemen and all those guys, they were just instrumental to everything that I achieved. And if you do something for one person, it's just meant being an individual. I always said all my life, and those guys deserve it just as much as I do.
Yeah, no question. But I think they're just going to do you.
You know what? You're trying to be funny now, but the way I read it was, who do you think we should do a statue of? Steve Spurrier, Sterling Sharp, and they named some other names. I don't know the rest of them, but then I think they finally decided on who everybody probably wanted. But like I said, I think they should do something for the whole team.
Well, that's just you. You've always been a team first guy. There's no question about that. What do you, just looking ahead to the coming season? The preseason stuff is coming out. They're all, for the most part, picking the Gamecocks in the top 10. You know they lose good people on both sides of the line, but do you see another top 10 team at South Carolina, a team that can win the SEC this year?
I think we not only got the top 10 team. I think we got one of the top coaches at the university. Coach Spurs has done nothing to prove that he's not one of the elite coaches in the SEC, and certainly coming from Florida and the things he did for them, he hadn't slowed down any. And I think that's important when you start talking about football. The last 3 years, the Gamecocks have been 11-2. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, it certainly wasn't me, but they've done a great job. And right now, if you go into the University of South Carolina, you're proud to be a Gamecock.
No question about it. I mean, they have certainly revived most everything around USC, and Ray Tanner has continued to pick up on what Eric Hyman started and has kept it going. And when you see them losing Shaw and you see them losing Clowney on the other side, do you think they have the talent to replace those guys? Do you think Dylan Thompson can be the guy at quarterback?
Oh, ain't no doubt about it. Ain't no doubt about it. When Shaw was out, Dylan has done a great job of what he was doing, and certainly, no doubt, Clowney is a great football player himself. He went #1 pick, and they proved that. But even when those guys was not playing, there were other guys that come in and played just as good, at times than they did.
Mm-hmm.
But we know who our leaders were. Now we got to move on and get new leaders. And I think the ones that seen Clowning and the ones that seen Connor Shaw, which our two guys that you just got through talking about they're going to try to do better.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: on a straight line, if you broke through the line of scrimmage, and this is back in your heyday, 1980, let's say you had Clowney on the other side, you break through the line on a straight line. Could Clowney catch you on a straight line run?
Now you know better than that.
I didn't think he
you
could.
know better than that. You thought he could?
No, I don't think he could. No, I'm saying no.
I'm saying no too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking sure. I'm saying no. He know he wouldn't have caught me, but I think when I started playing in the pros and I got a little heavy, not only he would have caught me, he probably would have floored me.
He would have needed an angle. He would need an angle to catch you. So.
Well, that remains to be seen in another life. But I would like to have the challenge to see what it would have been like. I guarantee you that.
That'd have been something awesome. George, good luck this weekend, and congratulations again on everything with the foundation, and thanks for being with us.
Oh, well, I tell you what, man, I appreciate everything about that, what you guys are doing. Corn Blue, you always been a friend of mine, and hey, man, go Gamecocks in there. Y'all come out and support us. We need it.
You got it, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, George Rogers, his foundation is online at George Rogers Foundation of the Carolinas.org. You can look it up online, George Rogers Foundation of the Carolinas.org. Thanks to George for being with us tonight, and also thanks to Hugh Green. you what, George Rogers is something special. Whether you're a Gamecock, a Tiger, or you don't care, he's just a terrific person to talk to. A great story in his own right, and I always welcome him to Sports Talk. He always gives us a great interview and a great time, and he's every bit the same person he was back in 1978, 79, 80 when he was toting the leather for the Gamecocks, and enjoyed covering his college career and enjoy talking to him now. And good luck to George and everybody involved with his foundation for their weekend work. It's, again, going to be Sunday, the gala and the silent auction at the Zone. You can go on out if you haven't made plans to at this point. According to George, you can go on out. Love to have you. And then they've got the golf tournament. I think you have to pre-register for that. They've got the golf tournament at the very nice Orangeburg Country Club, and that should be a lot of fun as well. The current Powerball jackpot, now $60 million. Be sure to purchase Power Play for an extra $1 for a chance to increase your winnings from the South Carolina Education Lottery. No Mike tonight. Mike's got Gwinnett Braves TV tonight, so he's not with us, but we can talk about the Braves and what went down last night and what's coming up tonight.
Yeah, Chris Johnson drove in all 3 runs. Evan Gattis extended his hitting streak, I think, to 17 games. And the Braves just have the Nationals number, 6 out of 7. They cut the lead to a half a game, but they lose another pitcher.
Yeah, Gavin Floyd goes down. It's a fracture in the funny bone of the elbow, and he was going to be examined further today in Atlanta. Here's a couple of other notes. It will be Alex Wood replacing him in the rotation.
I kind of figured that's
on
what they
Wednesday.
would go with.
Also, Justin Upton arrived at the park today. He was sick last night and feeling worse today, complaining of dizziness. Actually, he's been sick for a couple of days, so they sent him to undergo other tests. And so there you go. He apparently is. I'm imagining he's a scratch for the game tonight as well. It will be Mike Minor going to the mound tonight for the Braves against who's the stud?
Strasburg.
Strasburger, yeah.
And Strasburg, the Braves have had his number.
Strasburg. I said Strasburg. Strasburg.
Yeah, they've had his.
I always have to remind myself, it's Strasburg, but it's Mettenberger. You always have to think about that before you say it, because you get
or Hamburger.
Well, there was a linebacker for many years with the Redskins named Chris Hamburger.
H-A-N,
Chris Hamburger, who was one of the best linebackers.
One of the things we didn't
in the NFL.
One of the things we didn't get to ask George, and I want George, if George is listening at all possible, he needs to ask that question. Lattimore is out in San Francisco, and he chose to wear the number 38 because 21 was used. Maybe he's doing it in honor of George. I don't know.
Could be. Maybe he's honoring George. But you know what? If he was going to honor somebody, it might be Stephen Davis, because that's who he was really close to. Even after he announced to go to South Carolina, I think Stephen Davis was somebody that he always was mentored by. All right, it's the top of the hour break.
All right. Stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Well, it's already been a busy edition of Sports Talk on this Friday night. Where else can you tune in on a Friday night and hear from two great football players like George Rogers and Hugh Green, as you did on Sports Talk tonight? If you missed the interview with the two, the 1980 Heisman Trophy winner, the 1980 Heisman Trophy runner-up, all we were missing was Herschel Walker, who came in third in the voting that year. How about that for a top three in voting?
It's interesting you talk about that, because if you fast forward those three individuals and put them in today's run, and South Carolina is still independent and Pittsburgh is still independent, there's no doubt that Herschel probably wins it because of the SEC hype machine.
Oh, gracious. If Herschel were playing today, my goodness, it would be absolutely over the top. It'd be like, well, I don't think can anything top the Clowney hype from the ESPN machine and everything else? I don't think so.
Especially for a defensive player. I think it's unprecedented for a defensive player to get the hype that he got. But, it's interesting. When they put together that schedule, and I guess Jim Carlin was the athletic director, little did we know that the path was actually smooth, so to speak, for George to win the Heisman, because George not only ran for some tremendous yards against the teams they played from the ACC and Georgia from the SEC at that time, but George got to go out to Los Angeles. They lost to Southern California with Ronnie Lott, but George had something like a 45 or 40-yard touchdown run where he beat Lott to the corner for a touchdown. Then they go to Michigan in Ann Arbor, and they upset Michigan. So people in L.A. got to see him to play. People in the Midwest got to see him to play. And I think George siphoned off some votes from those two regions that ultimately got him the Heisman.
No question about it. So it was great having them on with us tonight. And, again, if you can, get involved with George's foundation and help him do what he does with that, and that is what a unique idea, but a very worthwhile one, and that is he is providing money for first-generation college students from a family, first one to go to college from a family, and they are helping them pay for that college education. So that's a terrific idea, something George has done. What did he say, for 23 years, I think
23 years, 23 years, and I think he said they had 15 last year. They're shooting for 20.
That's just fantastic. A note on the Braves, we were talking about Justin Upton. He is still sick. He is out to the lineup for tonight as well, as the Braves prepare to take on the Nationals up in D.C. All right, coming up, we're going to jump a little bit into the NBA draft, which is next week, June 26th, and K.J. McDaniels doing very well, moving up some of the mock drafts, and we'll have Lee Klein, our basketball guy, with us to talk about what is happening in the draft world. It was shaken up a bit because of the pending surgery for Joel Embiid. Going to knock him out 4 to 6 months. Be back.
So this is when not only does the World Cup start for them tonight, but this is the game that if they get 3 points, now all of a sudden you put yourself in a situation where you control your own destiny.
Time to defeat the pessimism around the Honduras soccer circles. That's what Suarez was looking to do tonight. Trying to get a shot off, but Ecuador keeps it back. Valencia. Montero again, switching to his most comfortable position on the left side, trying to beat Bekeles in a foot race. Last to touch it, Bekeles, as he was signaling for a goal kick. The referee signals a corner, the 6th one of the match for Ecuador. Twelve crosses this game for Ecuador, but so far just one has met a teammate. There goes another one flying out of the box as Paredes brings it back in. Bankston. And another corner kick for Ecuador. They decide to play short with Ener Valencia. Jeff Montero. Juan Carlos Garcia, the player who came in to substitute Emilio Izaguirre. Space for Valencia. It decides to do one more. Boniek. Roger Espinosa through the middle. Short play for Bengston, for Costly, I should say, as Bengston was wide open on the left-hand side. Caicedo, who went to Germany back in 2006, brought over in the squad by Luis Fernando Suarez, not on the 23-man roster as the throw-in just goes wayward by Felipe Caicedo. Decided to take him in as a youngster 8 years ago just to give him some experience. Now Caicedo, a playing member of the Ecuadorian squad. And surely with that throw-in also.
All right, Lee Klein coming up in just a moment. A quick call from Mark in Aiken, then we'll get to Mr. Klein. Mark, how are you? Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, doing well tonight, guys. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Hey, Pro, I have a question for you, sir. The basketball question. The hire that the Cavs made today with that coach, do you think they've pretty much given up on the idea at all of maybe getting LeBron or another name guy? And what best scenario do you think that it's going to take for him to stay in Miami? Does he leave? Does Bosh leave and or Wade leave? I mean, what are they going to do to retool? Because I know Pat's comments were pretty much directed at him. Does he stay, or, are the Cavs pretty much, kind of maybe shooting in the dark now with their hire of this new coach, somebody I've never even heard of before? Thanks a lot for the phone call. I'll let you guys take it.
And we'll let Lee talk about it, too, when we bring him on.
Yeah, it's weird. This guy, again, a lot of the NBA going to the rudiments of that Princeton offense of Pete Carril, and this guy, Blatt, David Blatt, is a proponent of it. He played for Pete Carril at Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing, Phil, is he has played and coached in Europe for the last 30 years. I mean, he's been at Europe. He was the coach of Russia when they won the bronze medal in the 2012 Olympics. He won the European Championship this past year. And I think, Phil, the NBA game, as far as especially with player personnel is concerned, is an international game. I think this is a forward-thinking hire. In my opinion, he's 55 years old. He's got a lot of experience, and who better to know the personnel to get players to come over from Europe, maybe some veterans, than him? And Cleveland can retool with or without LeBron coming back and be a formidable team.
Well, let's welcome in Lee Klein, our basketball expert and contributor here on Sports Talk, director of the 5-Star Basketball Camps, and a former coach himself, and contributor to Slam Magazine. And so you heard the caller, Lee, and Pro's answer. What's your take on this hire by Cleveland?
Well, gentlemen, good evening. First and foremost, I like the hire. I mean, for Cleveland, they tried Mike Brown twice. It's time to go in a different direction. And I had a chance to meet David Blatt, see him coaching in Italy, and he has a charisma about him. He's a dynamic offensive coach, and I think I think for Cleveland this is a step in the right direction. This is a guy that's going to have great sets. He's going to bring in a new type of energy, and instead of having a retread, having a guy that's been tried for whatever reason wasn't successful in the NBA, let's try someone. Let's give David Blatt a chance. I think he's going to do a great job. And I think, the caller talked about LeBron. For Cleveland, you could only control things you can control. You can't worry, or there's nothing you can do, if you will, to push LeBron's hand in your direction. Initially, I mean, one of the big reasons they kept Chris Grant was they were hoping that was going to lean for LeBron to want to stay. So I think for Cleveland, they've got to move on, and if whether it be LeBron or any other free agent, for them to consider Cleveland moving forward, it's going to be based on what the Cleveland situation is, the coach, and the personnel, and how that player fits in.
But while we're talking about NBA coaching hires, let me ask you about this. I don't know if you can call it a trend, but it is certainly something that has become the most recent wave of hiring, and that is hiring retired point guards, especially recently retired point guards. You got Jason Kidd, 1 year out of the game coaching, and now we see the hiring of Fisher.
Derek Fisher.
He retires. He gets hired. Steve Kerr's been retired for a while, but I mean he gets hired. Mark Jackson was hired soon after he retired as a coach. So my point is, is this going to become a trend, hiring recently retired stars, making them head coaches, especially if they were point guards? I don't know if I guess Kerr was a point guard. The others certainly were point guards. Is that going to become the current trend for ownership in the NBA?
Oh, by the way, I consider Kerr maybe more of a 2,
yeah,
but a great guard nonetheless. Here's the thing. Everything goes in cycles, right? So this cycle we're at is the hire the former player.
Yeah.
Hire the former player cycle. And I think there is some viability to that. This is turned into a players' league. You've got to get guys that want to play for you. It's as much about motivation as anything else. And they feel that the best connect's going to be, if you will, former players that have put those shoes on and understand what these guys are going through. Before that, you've had different waves. You've had old coach wave. You've had take the guys from college wave, and and what'll happen is they'll see how this pans out. If they deem it successful, others will follow. If not, they'll come through a different direction, like go a European route, and give some of the fine international coaches an opportunity.
Well, the draft is coming up, and you almost had the feeling, reading the tea leaves, that Embiid was the guy. Just the fact that Cleveland had to convince themselves that his back was fine and he'd be the #1 pick. Now, with the fractured bone, I guess, in the foot, and he's going to be on the shelf for a while. How far does he drop? And is Parker the guy now that you see Cleveland going for the #1 pick?
I think all along in my heart of hearts that Andrew Wiggins was going to go number one, and I still think he goes number one because of the magic P, the potential, and everyone knows athletically he is 0.1% in the world, and I think that the NBA guys feel confident that they could have him gain some offensive confidence in which he'll then turn into more of an alpha guy instead of, if you will, being a part-time offensive weapon, a transition player, and a perimeter defender. Jabari Parker, most ready player right now, would be a great pick in Milwaukee to get some fans for this new ownership group. Chicago kid would really be a great fit there. Embiid, great kid, really talented, unbelievable ceiling, and you hate that this is happening. With last year's injury issues that we saw in the first 10 picks of the draft and how that turned out, I think that puts the slide 4 to 7 for Embiid, somewhere between 4 and 7. And it's unfortunate because you'd hate a guy, this is such bad timing for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think he's got great potential. But there are legitimate injury concerns. I've talked to a couple of teams that really medically prefer not to take him and because of the opportunity cost. And this draft, I think, is a great draft for its depth. I think the 20 to 40 position in this draft is really something. And the interesting thing is I see some guys trying to slide back to that position or get late first round, early second round picks just because there's as good a chance that those guys make it as maybe somebody that's going in that 5 to 10 range.
All right, hold on if you don't mind, Lee. I want to hit a break here and come back and talk to you a couple more minutes, in particular KJ McDaniels and what you're hearing about him. Seems to us that he is moving up in the eyes of the scouts. We'll get your take on that as well. Coming up in just a moment, more with Lee Klein after this break. Want more out of your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits.
His third World Cup goal. Ener Valencia puts Ecuador in the lead.
But did you do the makeup one already?
And that is also as well the first time Ener Valencia scores 2 goals in the same match.
Did you do the makeup one already?
For the Ecuadorian national side.
Did you do the makeup spot?
Here comes Toño Valencia. Stopped on his tracks. Boma Bernardes goes down, it's fouled.
They are all over the place. Hear that chant corner? They're cheering for you, man.
The stands are all the Ecuadorian fans.
Come. Hey, we're streaming online now, baby. We can reach Ecuador.
City of Curitiba.
All right, stand by.
All right, Braves have taken a 1-0 lead on Washington. Freddie Freeman, a solo home run. We go back to Lee Klein. All right, so KJ McDaniels apparently impressing people in his pre-draft workouts, and saw one mock draft today has him going 25th to I think that's the Bulls. Is that the Bulls? 25th? I can't make out the logo. It's so small. But anyway, they've got him going 25th, whoever that happens to be. What do you think about KJ? What are you hearing? How far up the line can he move in the next week?
Well, I think KJ's in that 20 to 40 range, and depending on his individual workouts with the team, if he goes in and shoots the lights out, he's going to put himself in a great position, because I think that's the one area that teams have concern. Can he be a consistent threat from the perimeter? I think that teams are looking at him to answer. They need perimeter defenders. They need guys that are just scratching the surface of the ceiling, and I think he fits in well there. The question's going to be, the fit, the need, and what ultimately what they saw in the workout, and if he's going to be a guy that they want to make that sort of investment in.
Are you expecting a blockbuster trade or two on draft night?
I think there's going to be a lot of movement this draft. I think there's going to be, within the draft, guys trading, picks amongst each other. You've got some teams that have compiled some picks that I think will want to bundle. And I think there's the questions, the July 1st free agency questions. I think teams want proven assets. And here's a draft that's well received, that I think that there's those teams that'll be on the buy to get proven assets for the teams that, if you will, have a little further to come and are looking to build something for a couple years down the line.
Will a team actually pick P.J. Hairston, considering that he missed all of last season and his most recent troubled past? Will somebody take a chance on him?
Most definitely. Probably in the first round. He could shoot the basketball. And when you look and you think about the NBA, I think you've got to always, in the draft, the first thing you say is, does he have an NBA skill? And for P.J. Hairston, shooting's his NBA skill, so somebody's going to take him. But that's and I think there's some advantage, played in the D-League, played against other guys that were drafted in the first round this past year. He'll need to show more than the ability to shoot. But make no mistake, this is a guy that's going to be in that, similar to KJ, in that 20 to 40 range. He's going to be picked because of how well he shoots the basketball.
Considering he got rung up on gun charges, Lee, be careful how you refer to him as a shooter, so.
Oh.
Anyway, Lee, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next week before the draft and get your final thoughts on how things are going to play out with the impending surgery for Embiid. Things are certainly going to be moving around quite a bit. Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, Exum. Who knows who'll go first? Thanks to Lee Klein. Back in a moment.
Oh, biting the bullet. We got a couple years out of Bynum. They still got 2 titles out of them.
Love it when it's fast. Love it when the leaders talk. The pack is moving fast. Love it when they're making lots and lots of noise. Can't wait to hear the double say.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Let's go racing, boys. Love it when they're drafting. Love it when they slide. Love it when the back straight, the throttle's open wide. Love it when they're making lots and lots of noise. Can't wait to hear the double say.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Let's go racing,
Boys. Why you turn it down on me? Let's go racing, boys. Don't leave me hanging out there to
Please turn it
dry
up.
like I'm on a turn at Sonoma. Going off into the gravel. Let's welcome in for the full Monty on NASCAR, our good buddy Monty Dutton, former NASCAR beat writer, now the sage of Clinton. And how many times did you go out to Sonoma to cover racing? Did you include that in your treks around the country?
I went out there a lot of times. The last time was I went out there in 2012.
Yeah.
I think 12 were the years, most recent years. But I've been out there a lot of times.
You enjoy it?
Sonoma was kind of a place that you sort of, when you picked your road trips, you sort of tried to make a big play for that one.
Yeah. What do you like about it
Very
besides
nice part of the country.
I was going to say the wine country and all that, but what about that type of racing, the road racing, especially on that particular track?
Well, Sonoma is, this reminds me of one time when I heard David Pearson told Tony Stewart has never won at Darlington, and he asked Pearson about it, and Pearson says, you should have tried it when it was hard.
Yeah.
Well, Sonoma used to be a lot harder than it is now because it used to have a big section where at the top of the hill you went down, plunging down the valley, and then made a big U back up the hill. Now that track is straight across at the top of the hill, and so it's the same way Watkins Glen. They don't use part of that. They cut off part of that track. But when Bruton Smith bought Sonoma, I think his goal was to make it as much like an oval as he could. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure that he wouldn't have liked to get his bulldozer out and create an oval out there. But I'm saying it is a harder road course because of the change in altitude than Watkins Glen is. My feeling about road courses is that I guess over whatever controversy there is, I'm a little bit ambivalent because to me, I enjoy the two road courses because they're a welcome change. They're sort of a novelty item. But I think that stock cars are sort of awkward on road courses,
yeah,
although they're probably less so than ever before. And so I would really rather watch sports cars or Indy cars or Grand Prix cars race on road courses. So I'm not if they added another road course, it wouldn't bother me. But I just sort of like, you know, don't it doesn't make that much difference to me. To me, I like the two because they're a change of pace.
Well, should a road course be included in the chase?
Well, a lot of people think that. I sort of don't, just because to me, I don't know, a road course is sort of such a, you know, even though all the top NASCAR drivers are much better on road courses, again, one of the main reasons for that is that they created gearboxes where you don't have to use the clutch and you don't have to do all that acrobatics that they used to do. Used to be that a few NASCAR drivers had huge advantages. Ricky Rudd was really good. But today it's really not nearly as difficult as it used to be. And what I really think is that what's happening now is that I believe that there are some NASCAR drivers who are definitely better road racers.
Mm-hmm.
But track position, almost all of them are good enough that if they have a fast car and track position, they can hang on to it. There aren't that many who can come rushing up. You know, Tony Stewart will really excite you on Montoya used to. But there are others. Kevin Harvick's a good road racer. There's a lot of good road racers there. But I really think that when a guy like a couple of, you know, like when a Clint Boyer wins on a road course, I think in some ways it's kind of like getting track position, having the fastest car. It's kind of like the same way on ovals that you see guys who come from road racing. They learn to be really fast on ovals when they're on the track by themselves, but it's a lot harder when there's 42 other cars on there. And so, you know, I think that it would really throw a big wrinkle into the chase. And so I guess from the way NASCAR looks at it, where I don't think NASCAR cares about justice, they want it to be exciting. That's why they have this game show format. And so it would make it more exciting, but I always err on the side of the champion being legitimate. And I think that with the current format, it's going to be exciting, but there's a chance that somebody who just doesn't deserve it at all wins it because he happens to pull out something right near the end, or or the main guy doesn't win a race and doesn't advance to the next round, that type of thing.
Yeah, you mentioned Clint Boyer. Second round of practice, he's fastest just so far, 95.988. Then Carl Edwards at 95.4, Earnhardt Jr. 95.4, Vickers at 95.2, Biffle 95.1, and then Kyle Busch 95.1. So that's the top speeds in practice this afternoon in the second round. Any residue from the Michigan race last weekend carrying over to this weekend, or any stories bubbling during the week that caught your attention?
Well, Stewart had a fairly serious crash in Indianapolis testing, and I was interested today because one of my most amusing items in all of NASCAR is how there's no Goodyear tire has ever had anything wrong with it. It's always Goodyear, always, and they said today that the Stewart crash happened because of increased speeds at Indianapolis, and that they had been trying to deal with. And I thought to myself, well, as opposed to all those crashes that happen because of low speeds, all crashes happen because of high speeds. So that caught my attention, and I didn't, as I think I've said a zillion times on this show, Johnson's 3 wins in the last 4 races is no surprise at all to me, and so everything's rolling along. I think we've reached the point where my profession, but not just my profession, all the fans are the same way. The great weakness of sports fans is that they have no patience and they overreact to everything. And since journalists feed on that frenzy, we do the same things. And so just as when there were 8 different winners in the first 8 races, and everybody would say, oh my God, you might have to win 2 races, I was writing at the time that that's ridiculous. That the last time there were 10 different winners, there weren't but 13 by the 26th race. Well, now we have a bunch of guys. We have the first 3-time winner, and now I think that the exciting thing Sunday is that there really is a chance for a guy to get in the chase almost based on this race. Marcus Ambrose has won at Watkins Glen twice. He almost won at Sonoma, and there's a guy who there's no way in the world he'll probably get in the chase unless he wins one of these road races. And that'll be exciting because I promise you he'll put quite an effort into it.
Yeah. What about my man?
Fun to watch.
How about our man David Gilliland with the number 38 car? Frank Kerr's a buddy of ours, and of course they usually run 27th, 28th, a typical oval track. But on the road courses, he's pretty good, and they're pretty good in practice today.
Well, David's father, Butch, is a noted road racer, although and also it's been a long time, but at one time West Coast races were joint races between the West Coast Series and that, and way back in the old days, occasionally a West Coast driver would come in there and win races at Riverside. But Gilliland's dad was mainly known as a road racer, and he's very competent, and that would be just as David Reagan has won 2 plate races in the last few years.
Yeah.
That makes the race interesting.
Yeah. Monty,
that makes this weekend's race very interesting.
Have a great weekend. Great stuff as always. Let's remind folks that they can go to your website, MontyDutton.com, MonteDutton, correct?
Well, D-U-T-T-O-N. I think you mistakenly said a D just then.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Anyway, Monty Dutton.
It was. Now listen, all these years I've known you, I know how to spell your name. It sounded like a D, but it was a T. Monty,
well,
M-O-N-T-E.
I wasn't concerned about you, Phil. It was all of the people out in radio land.
M-O-N-T-E, Dutton, DUTTON.com. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Phil.
Good talking to
bye.
you. Monty Dutton. And we appreciate what he adds to our NASCAR coverage here on Sports Talk. And again, second round of second round of practice this afternoon. And thus far, Clint Boyer through 19 laps, just under 96 miles an hour. Pro will drive that fast going home tonight. Once again, thanks to Monty Dutton for being with us, the full Monty on NASCAR every Friday night here on Sports Talk, your place to keep up with NASCAR. Tuesday, we have Darlington President with us to talk about the weekend past. And then on Friday, we have Monty, the full Monty, to talk about what's ahead this weekend. Yeah, Chip Weil. I was going to get to his name. Chip Weil, president of Darlington.
Need to reboot.
You were looking at me like,
check
you're going
the
to say his name?
Wikipedia page.
I was going to say his name. All right, recruiting coming up in just a moment. And the current Powerball jackpot is $60 million. Be sure to purchase Power Play for an extra $1 for a chance to increase your winnings from the South Carolina Education Lottery. All right, recruiting now. A lot of stuff to tell you about. South Carolina had some guys in for visits. We've heard from a couple of them. Defensive back Jalen Thompson from Mobile, Alabama, said he loved it over at USC today, loved the coaches. The stadium was great. He said Coach Spurrier talking was the best. The Gamecocks are in good shape with Thompson. They were in good shape going into the visit. They remain strong. He said they know they're in my top group. Kentucky, Georgia, Miami also have been favorites with him. He plans to visit Kentucky next month. Running back Tyshawn Williams of Crestwood, just touched base with him just a few moments ago. On his visit to USC today, he called it real good. And he is scheduled to visit North Carolina tomorrow. At least that's his plan, to visit North Carolina tomorrow. And Damon Arnett also in at USC today, but nothing from him yet on how his visit went. Darian Roseborough of Lincoln in North Carolina, defensive end, plans to visit USC next week. He has the Gamecocks among his final 11, as well as Clemson. 2016 offensive lineman Greg Allen. Remember last night we spent all that time talking about him and how his dad, Derek Little, played at South Carolina. His name is Greg Little, not Greg Allen. Greg Little, who plays in Allen, Texas, lives in Allen, Texas. And his father is former USC linebacker Derek Little. Anyway, all that to say he committed to Texas A&M today. All right. So much was made of USC offering yesterday. Too little, too late. He's going with the Aggies. Running back Isaiah Hill of Burns favors Miami of Ohio. Hasn't been there yet, but plans to visit this season. That's one of his 4 offers. Also Western Michigan, Toledo, and Gardner-Webb. Defensive lineman Albert Huggins, Orangeburg Wilkinson, tells us he will continue to move at a deliberate pace in making his decision. He's not going to be rushed into anything, even though he knows that some of the places he likes, they're filling up with recruits and with commitments. He spent a few days at Clemson last week while the camps were going on. He did not participate. He was there observing. And Clemson's been one of the schools on him the strongest from the beginning. And he said he found his time there to be very beneficial. He sat down with Dabo Sweeney, Marion Hobby, Dan Brooks, and they talked a lot about football and life. And interesting thing he told me is that he said Coach Hobby is the coach that doesn't want him to play D-end in college because he likes big D-ends. And Huggins said he's 282. He said that Brooks would love to have him as a defensive tackle, but the bottom line is Clemson likes him as a defensive end, despite not maybe being as big as Marion Hobby would like him to be right now. He thinks he can play defensive end in college. That's what he's going to go to college to play, he said, is defensive end. Now, Clemson did tell him, he said, in talking with Sweeney, that they had 1 spot left at defensive end. They had a couple of other prospects that were visiting last week. And he said Sweeney told him, hey, man, if they commit, we can't take you. And Huggins said he told Sweeney, he said, Coach, I know that. I'm aware of all that, but I need time. I'll be graduating mid-year, and I need time. I need to pray about this, so I need time. He talked with USC about a week ago and told them his plan to take visits out of state to have something to compare with the Gamecocks in Clemson. He said that Deke Adams told him that You've been to South Carolina before, but they haven't had a chance for a long conversation that they want to have. But he doesn't have any immediate plans for returning to visit USC. He is going to Georgia in a couple of weeks, and he's going to try to go to Florida. He also wants to visit Florida State and Auburn this summer, and again, he maintains no leader at this point. Clemson last week at camp offered Brian Dawkins Jr., the son of the former Clemson star and, of course, the NFL star. He lives out in Colorado, and it's his first offer. He's also drawing interest from Washington, Colorado, Colorado State, Wyoming, Utah State, and Washington State. Loves Clemson. However, he wasn't ready to jump on the offer with a commitment, saying he's not rushing anything. He'll pray about it and leave his options open. He wants to evaluate the school some more. And so he will continue to think about things. He's going to camp at Wyoming and Northern Colorado. 40 tackles and 6 picks for him last season. Don't forget to check out our recruiting online at sportstalksc.com and also hashtag #STRecruiting. Make sure you punch that in on Twitter to bring up bits and pieces of recruiting information that we put out there on a regular basis. But the stories, the big stories at sportstalksc.com out there for you on a regular basis. Want more from your education? Well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. What's happening with the Braves, bro?
Well, it's 1-1. The Freddie Freeman had a home run at the top of the first to give the Braves a 1-0 lead. Ian Desmond, their shortstop, who's now has 14 homers, went deep in the bottom of the second inning, so it's 1-1, Atlanta and Washington.
All right, in the College World Series, Texas won today over Vanderbilt to force a deciding game in that bracket tomorrow. And coming up tonight, it will be Virginia and Ole Miss. Virginia needs a win to advance to the championship series. Ole Miss needs a win to force a deciding game in that bracket tomorrow. Hey, we're about to cut you loose for the weekend, so we want to remind you one more time, if you're headed out onto the water this weekend, have a great time, but please don't drink and drive that boat. It's very dangerous. Always designate a driver. Always wear your life jacket. Let's all make it through the summer safely on the water and on the roads so we can see you at these football games coming up this fall. Yeah, I would call me old-fashioned. I would always wear a life jacket when I'm on the boat. By the way, did you see where off of Edisto? I don't think it was Edisto Island. I think it was off of Edisto Beach. There's a difference, I think.
It is.
They caught a tiger shark, 1,100 pounds, 1,100. No,
1,100 pounds.
let's get it right, Corn. 1,150 pounds. 1,135 pounds. Trying to get the numbers right in my head. This was the other day. It was part of a fishing tournament. No, it was off Edisto. And I read this in the paper. And the shark was so big. This is just like out of the movie's Jaws. How much? Yeah, 1,100. In round numbers, 1,100. The
you
fish
got some
was,
Jaws music.
was so big, they couldn't get him in the boat. They had to drag him behind the boat to the dock and then put him up on the scale. And they cut him open. And the story said a 100-pound sea turtle came out of him that he had eaten, I guess.
I wouldn't cut that thing open. You may find some human body parts in that thing.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about, being safe on the water. Don't drink, don't drive your boat, and by all means, stay away from sharks.
14 foot long.
How many?
14 footer.
feet.
Yeah.
They're lucky the shark didn't drag them to his lair. By the way, tomorrow, longest day of the year, first day of summer, 21st tomorrow.
Extra time to cut the yard. Oh, that's just great. Well, everybody have a great weekend, a great long day tomorrow. Thank you, State Man. Great job as always. Oh, by the way, K-Mac wasn't with us tonight. He'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, Pro, and we'll see you all next week.